I have this very strong energy that someone is watching you like a hawk right now, but they are trying so hard to act like they are not. And the card that came through first is the Two of Swords. Obsidian. This is actually intense because this card is literally showing someone blindfolded holding two swords across their face, like they do not want to see the truth. But the truth is right there. This person has been pretending they are fine, pretending they are unbothered, pretending they made the right decision, but psychologically, emotionally, energetically, they are stuck. They are blocked. They are frozen in this place where their pride will not let them move forward, but their feelings will not let them walk away. And I need you to stay with me because this is not random. This Two of Swords is telling me that they have been watching you from behind silence. They may not be speaking, but they are observing. They may not be liking, commenting, or reaching out, but they are noticing everything. Your absence is speaking louder than anything you could have said. Excuse me? Because this is the part that feels so specific. They thought ignoring you would give them control. They thought being cold would make you chase. They thought if they stayed quiet long enough, you would panic, over-explain, beg, or try to fix everything. But you didn't. Or you are learning not to. And that is where their pride begins to collapse. This card is not fortune-telling. This is symbolism. The blindfold represents avoidance. The swords represent mental conflict. Obsidian represents protection, shadow work, and uncomfortable truth. So what this tells me is that someone is being forced to face the part of themselves they tried to hide from you. And the strangest thing is, the more peaceful you become, the more restless they become. Comment, I am protected, powerful, and impossible to ignore, to claim your peace and your power. And now look at what came through next. 10 of Wands, Aquamarine. Excuse me? Because this card is showing someone carrying more than they want to admit. And in this deck, it is not just heavy sticks on someone's back. It is underwater. It is this mermaid surrounded by wands, surrounded by pressure, surrounded by emotion, surrounded by all these things that look like they should be floating, but they are still weighing something down. So this tells me that this person is not just watching you because they are curious. No, they are watching because something about your silence is making their own burden louder. They may not be saying it, but they are studying you. They are studying how you move when you are not chasing. They are studying how you respond when they do not give you anything. They are studying your absence, your restraint, your peace, your ability to not run after someone who once thought they had that kind of power over you. And that is why this feels so intense. Because the 10 of Wands is pressure. It is emotional weight. It is carrying too much for too long. And aquamarine, symbolically, is connected to calming the emotional body, speaking truth, and releasing fear around expression. So what this tells me is that someone has a lot they are not saying, a lot they are holding back, a lot they are carrying behind that silence. But I need you to hear me clearly. Their silence is not peace. Their silence is pressure building behind a blindfold. Because watching without acting is still an action. Observing without speaking is still energy. Staying quiet while checking on you, wondering about you, comparing your current energy to who you used to be for them, that is still participation. They are not as detached as they want to appear. And this is where it gets interesting. They expected your emotions to remain available to them. They expected your reaction. They expected some sign that you still cared in the same desperate way. But when you stopped feeding the pattern, the burden shifted back onto them. And the next sign is going to show exactly why their pride is beginning to crack in private. And look at this. Page of Swords. Desert Rose. Reversed. Excuse me? Because this is exactly the kind of energy I was feeling. This is someone watching, but not from a clean place. Not from a grounded place. Not from a place of, let me understand what I did. This is someone watching through pride, through ego, through defensiveness, through that little voice in their head that keeps saying, no, I was right. No, I did not mess this up. No, they are just being dramatic. But reversed, that mask is slipping. The Page of Swords can be observation, curiosity, checking, studying, watching from a distance. But when it comes out reversed, now we are looking at someone whose mind is not settled. Someone who may be overthinking, assuming, misreading, spying emotionally, or trying to gather information without having the courage to communicate directly. And Desert Rose is so specific here because symbolically, Desert Rose is about clarity forming in dry places, truth forming where emotion has been withheld, something beautiful forming in a place where someone acted like nothing could grow. So this person thought their pride was strength. They thought staying distant made them look powerful. They thought not reaching out made them look unbothered. They thought withholding emotion would make you question yourself. But all it really did was expose how emotionally immature they were being, because you did not react the way they predicted. They thought you would keep trying to prove your heart. They thought you would keep reaching across the silence. They thought you would keep explaining your intentions to someone who already knew what they were doing. But the moment you pulled your energy back, the whole dynamic changed. Now, they are not just watching what you do. They are comparing who you are now to the version of you they thought they could control. That is the part. They remember when your emotions were easier to access. They remember when your care was immediate. They remember when their coldness could make you anxious. And now your peace is making them uncomfortable because it is showing them that their influence is not the same anymore. And the next card is going to show what triggered the spiral. And look at this. Two of Wands. Celestite. Now this is the trigger. Because the Two of Wands is not someone screaming, not someone begging, not someone making a dramatic exit. This is quiet decision. This is looking ahead. This is the moment where your energy starts facing forward instead of constantly turning around to see if they are coming. And I need you to hear this part because this is why they started watching more closely. It was not because you posted one thing. It was not because you said one sentence. It was not because you suddenly became cold. No, it was the shift, the subtle shift. The moment you stopped explaining yourself so much. The moment you stopped overgiving. The moment you stopped trying to prove that your heart was real to someone who kept acting like they could not see it. They felt that. Before they understood it, they felt it. They noticed your responses were different. They noticed your energy was not reaching for them the same way. They noticed that your silence did not feel like panic anymore. It felt like choice. it felt like distance. It felt like, I am not standing here forever, waiting for you to decide whether you want to be honest. Excuse me? Because that is what cracks pride. The Two of Wands is future energy. It is someone realizing there is more beyond this one situation, this one person, this one emotional loop. And Celestite symbolically brings calm clarity. It is not chaotic. It is not revengeful. It is that soft, clear energy where you do not need to prove anything because something inside you already knows. And that is what they cannot explain away. They may be telling themselves, you are doing this for attention. They may be telling themselves, you are trying to make them jealous. They may be telling themselves, you will come back around once enough time passes. But deep down, they know this piece is real. That is why their mind keeps circling back to you. Even when they distract themselves, even when they act busy, even when they pretend they do not care, something about your shift keeps pulling their attention back. And next, we need to talk about the difference between someone missing you and someone realizing they mishandled you. And look at what came through. The Wheel of Fortune. Serpentine. Excuse me? Because this is not just about someone missing you. This is about the wheel turning in a way they did not expect. This is about a cycle shifting. This is about someone who thought they could keep the same pattern going, keep the same distance, keep the same control, and somehow still have the same access to you. But the wheel moved. And when the wheel moves, people start feeling what they ignored before. The Wheel of Fortune is change. It is consequence. It is the moment where what was hidden underneath the pattern starts rising to the surface. And serpentine, symbolically, is about old energy shedding, old skin coming off, old versions of yourself not fitting anymore. So this tells me that your absence did not just make them miss you. It made them realize they mishandled a version of you that was genuine. That is different. Because someone can miss your attention and still not be ready to honor your heart. Someone can miss your warmth and still not be ready to take accountability. Someone can miss having access to you and still not understand the damage they caused. So I need you to be careful here. Being watched does not automatically mean someone has changed. Silence does not automatically mean regret. Curiosity does not automatically mean accountability. Sometimes people only start paying attention when the door they kept leaving open starts closing without a sound. And that is what this feels like. Your shift forced them to confront what they took for granted. The way you cared, the way you showed up, the way you tried to understand them, the way you gave grace to things that probably hurt you more than you admitted at the time. And now your absence has become a mirror they cannot control. They cannot twist it into you being needy. They cannot twist it into you chasing. They cannot twist it into you being too emotional. Because you are not doing anything. You are just not standing in the same place anymore. That is the uncomfortable truth. They may miss you, yes. But deeper than that, they are realizing they lost access to someone who was real with them. And the next part is going to show what they are afraid you finally know about them. And look at this. Page of Cups. Veracruz Amethyst. Excuse me? Because this is the part they are afraid of. They are not most afraid that you hate them. They are not most afraid that you are angry. They are not even most afraid that you are done. They are afraid that you see them clearly now, because Page of Cups energy can be soft. It can be emotional. It can be the message, the apology, the little opening of the heart. But with this card, look at the symbolism. Someone is sitting there, reaching toward the moon, painting the stars, touching something that looks beautiful, but also far away. It feels like someone trying to create an emotional picture without fully stepping into the truth of it. And Vera Cruz Amethyst symbolically is clarity. It is spiritual honesty. It is that higher awareness that cuts through confusion without needing to scream. So what this tells me is that you do not need them to confess everything for you to understand the pattern now. You saw the avoidance, you saw the mixed signals, you saw the moments where they pulled you close, then acted distant. You saw how they wanted your warmth, but not always the responsibility that came with receiving it. You saw how their pride would rather create confusion than admit fear. They know you saw it. That is why your silence feels different to them. Your silence is not empty. Your silence is full of recognition. It is full of, I understand now. It is full of, I do not need to argue with someone's mask anymore. And that is unsettling to someone who was used to you explaining, defending, proving, trying to make them understand your side. Because once you stop arguing, they lose the chance to rewrite the story in real time. You becoming calm did what your crying could not do. It exposed the pattern. And I need you to understand, this is not about you attacking them. This is not about you embarrassing them. This is not about you forcing them to admit anything. Your power right now is quiet discernment. You are seeing without chasing. You are understanding without collapsing. You are noticing without handing them control over your nervous system again. They know, you know, and once they can no longer hide behind pride, their energy starts shifting in ways that may surprise you. And look at what came through now. The star. Moldavite. Excuse me? Because this is a shift. This is not the same energy as someone sitting in silence pretending they do not care. This is the moment where something starts glowing in the dark. Something starts pulling them toward the truth they tried to avoid. But I need you to be very grounded with this, because the star can be healing, yes. It can be hope. It can be that little light that makes someone wonder if something can be repaired. But Moldavite? Moldavite is not gentle comfort. Symbolically, Moldavite shakes things loose. It disrupts denial. It brings sudden awareness. It makes what was buried feel impossible to keep buried. So this person's energy may start getting unstable. Not because they are ready, not because they have healed, but because the silence is starting to burn. They may start testing the waters. Maybe they appear indirectly. Maybe they watch something they used to ignore. Maybe they post something that feels a little too pointed. Maybe they ask someone about you without wanting it to get back to you. Maybe they resurface casually, like nothing happened, like there is not a whole storm sitting behind that small hello. And that is why you need to pay attention without getting pulled off center. Because subtle movement is not the same as changed behavior. The star is showing me they may want relief. They may want the tension to soften. They may want to know if you still care, if the door is still open, if your heart still reacts when they send the smallest signal. But Moldavite says the old way cannot hold anymore. The old pattern cannot just restart like nothing was exposed. Their ego wants a reaction. Their heart wants relief. And their pride is trying to find a safe way back without having to say, I was wrong, I was scared, I mishandled you. That is the conflict. They may not be saying it directly, but something in them is reaching. Something in them is looking for light in the same place they once created confusion. And the next thing we need to talk about is the test you must not fail when this person tries to pull on your energy again. And look at this. 2 of coins. Bloodstone. Excuse me? Because this is exactly the test. This card is showing balance. 2 things being held at once. 2 energies. 2 possibilities. And this is where you cannot let someone's small movement throw you off balance after you worked so hard to find your center again. Because they may come in with just enough to see if the old door is still unlocked. Not a full apology, not a clear conversation, not accountability with both feet on the ground. It may be curiosity, it may be nostalgia, it may be a joke, it may be hey, how have you been? Like nothing happened. It may be them reacting to something, watching something, saying something vague, doing just enough to pull on that part of you that used to hope every little sign meant the whole truth was finally coming. But I need you to hear me. Do not confuse a signal with a shift. Do not confuse attention with accountability. Do not confuse them missing your energy with them being ready to protect it. Because the 2 of coins is showing me that this is about balance, your emotional balance, your ability to hold your heart without handing it over too quickly. And bloodstone symbolically is courage, grounding, protection in the body. It is that energy that says, I can feel something and still not abandon myself. That is the assignment, not to punish them, not to be cold, not to prove you do not care, but to stop giving full access to someone who is only bringing crumbs of honesty. Watch what happens after the first message. Watch what happens after the small sign. Watch what happens when you do not immediately fall back into your old role. Do they become clearer? Do they become consistent? Do they take responsibility? Or do they disappear again once they realize you are no longer easy to emotionally juggle? And this is where obsidian comes back in. Protection against illusion. Protection against old hooks. Protection against the version of you that used to mistake anxiety for love. Because the deeper lesson behind this connection is not just about them watching you. It is about why this connection pulled so much out of you in the first place. And look at this, the Hermit, blue chalcedony. Excuse me? Because now we are getting to the deeper reason this connection pulled so much out of you. The Hermit is not about chasing. It is not about proving. It is not about running after someone in the dark with a flashlight, begging them to finally see what they already know. The Hermit is you going inward, and I need you to stay with me because this is where the message shifts. This connection was never only about whether this person comes back. It was never only about whether they watch you, miss you, regret it, or finally say what they should have said before. This was about what happened inside of you when they went silent. Because the old version of you may have begged for clarity. The old version of you may have over-explained. The old version of you may have taken their confusion and tried to turn it into your responsibility. But this version of you, this version is learning to wait for alignment, honesty, action, consistency, not just a feeling, not just a sign, not just somebody looking back because they finally feel you leaving. And blue chalcedony symbolically is calm communication. It is softness without weakness. It is truth without panic. It is the voice coming back to the body after being swallowed by anxiety for too long. So the real victory here is not that their pride is collapsing. The real victory is that your nervous system is not living in panic the same way anymore. That is the part. You are not waking up with the same urgency to check. You are not needing every silence to mean something about your worth. You are not letting someone's emotional inconsistency become the weather inside your chest, or you are learning not to, and that matters. The Hermit is showing me that your peace became the lantern, your silence became protection, your distance became shadow work, because when you stopped trying to pull the truth out of them, you started hearing the truth inside yourself. And that truth is simple. You do not have to abandon yourself to be chosen. So in the final message, we need to bring this all together because now you are being guided to choose something very different than the old pattern. And look at this final card. Knight of Swords. Copper. Reversed. Excuse me? Because this is exactly where the whole message lands. The Knight of Swords upright can be someone rushing in, speaking suddenly, acting fast, coming forward with all this mental energy. But reversed, this is blocked movement. This is words trapped behind pride. This is someone wanting to move, wanting to say something, wanting to cut through the silence but still fighting themselves. And copper symbolically carries energy. It conducts. It connects. It moves warmth from one place to another. But reversed like this, it feels like that current is interrupted. The feeling is there. The pressure is there. The thought is there. But the courage to move cleanly may still be tangled up in ego. So yes, someone is watching like a hawk. But I need you to understand what matters most. Their pride collapsing is not your responsibility to manage. Their silence breaking is not something you need to force. Their truth becoming uncomfortable is not something you need to chase out of them. Because we started with the Two of Swords, obsidian, the blindfold, the avoidance, the mental conflict, the uncomfortable truth. And now we are ending with this Knight of Swords reversed, which tells me the truth is pressing against their throat, but they still have to choose whether they are going to speak from pride or from honesty. And you are being guided to choose peace, not the old pattern, not the panic, not the over-explaining, not the version of you that thinks being chosen means proving your pain until someone finally understands it. The blindfold is falling. The truth is becoming impossible to avoid. But you do not have to stand there waiting for someone to admit what your spirit already knows. They may eventually have to face what they denied. They may eventually have to sit with the way they handled you. They may eventually realize that your silence was not weakness, it was protection. But your life does not pause there. Being impossible to ignore does not mean being loud. It does not mean chasing. It does not mean proving. It means becoming so whole, so grounded, so protected in your own energy that even your absence tells the truth. Comment, I choose peace. I choose protection, and I am chosen correctly. If this message was yours,